Hi there, and welcome to everybody who's joined us today. It's good to have you with us. And I think the topic that we're talking about today, this blood sugar and weight management, something that we've spoken a fair amount about before, but I think because it is such a huge problem in the world today in terms of people being overweight and the issues related to diabetes. I think it's really a really important thing to actually have a look at, and also look at it from the perspective of what Neolife has to offer. And as always, I look at it from a holistic approach as a health coach, and to look at it so that we are actually trying to make a difference to people's lives and improve their health in the long run. So what are the leading causes of death globally and in South Africa? And according to the World Health Organization, WHO, and South African Health Statistics, the leading causes of death are what we call non-communicable diseases, as being the leading causes of what causes 70% of all deaths in the world. So when we talk about non-communicable diseases, these are things that are actually preventable. We can make a choice about that. The key contributors include things like cardiovascular disease, heart attacks and stroke, which are very, very common in our society. Cancer, which is just becoming more and more of a problem. And then things like respiratory diseases, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and then diabetes. Diabetes is becoming one of the biggest problems, not only in South Africa, but internationally, as we often talk about this thing of metabolic disease, and diabetes is just but one side of this whole thing of metabolic disease. According to the South African Health Statistics, HIV and AIDS remain one of our top causes of death in South Africa. These rates are beginning to decline, and I think with the way that we're looking at it, not just at the antiretroviral therapy, but just at the way that we're learning to deal with it from a holistic perspective, people are living longer and finding that they can survive. Tuberculosis has always been a big problem in Africa, and it's one of the big causes of, or what causes a lot of death in South Africa and in Africa itself. Non-communicable diseases such as diabetes and cardiovascular disease and cancer are rising. We've seen a huge rise in terms of cancer in the last few years, and there are good reasons. We can understand why, and we know why it's happening. Of course, in South Africa, one of the big issues as well, we have this issue of violence. We have a pretty violent society, and people tend to think that that's the way to deal with things, and that's not obviously the way to sort things out. But why this matters is that globally, diabetes causes like something in the region of 463 million people who are ill, and find that adults who are living with diabetes worldwide, it's a huge number. And I think the numbers are actually conservative. When we look at the South African situation, 4.2 million people are thought to be living with diabetes, and it is one of the leading causes of health and a huge concern for us. And then we also get this thing of pre-diabetes. It's not only a thing in the USA, it's a thing throughout the world, where people, because of the diets that they have, the lifestyles that they are living, become pre-diabetic. So they're building up to what we call metabolic syndrome, and to a situation where they will develop and fall into full-blown diabetes and be diagnosed as diabetic. We're talking more here in terms of the type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is where people have a problem with the production of insulin. Type 2 diabetes relates to the fact that we have a situation where we're becoming insulin intolerant and our bodies are not responding properly to that. We're becoming overweight, and we're actually causing our own problems through mostly our diet and our lifestyles at the end of the day. So when we look at lifestyle drivers as far as this is concerned, processed food is one of the biggest issues. Most of the food that we have today, most people have a diet where they are using and eating processed foods. it would seem that this is very often the easiest and most convenient way to do it. But as I always say, what we should be doing is looking to try and find a place where the only label that we have on a food that we buy to eat is in actual fact the name of the food, not all the list of the ingredients, because so many of those, they've taken out so much of the nutritional value out of the food, and they produce something which they then say they've added vitamins to, they've added all these different things to. Why would they need to add things to the food if in fact we're eating good food? We should not have to have that. We must eat good food. We must eat real food. And that's what is also obviously such a big thing about Neolife, is that our products are food state vitamins. So they are kept in the natural form. They're not synthetic. They're not made from, synthesized in some laboratory. They are what we get from nature, and that's why the products work. That's why they're so good. Chronic stress and poor sleep are another huge thing that contributes to this whole issue relating to metabolic disease and to diabetes and to our ill health and our inflammation that we see. Stress is such a huge contributor to different diseases that we do not understand, because we're in a state of almost constant stress. We are stressed all the time. It's healthy to be stressed some of the time because it serves a purpose, but we find ourselves in a place where we are chronically stressed. We're stressed all the time, and we've got to learn and find ways to manage that. It's not just a simple thing of saying, well, let's get rid of it. The other thing is that we don't have enough exercise. We have very sedentary lifestyles that we live, and the environments that we live in. I think always we go to parking lots and we see how people, they park as close as they can to the entrance. They park in places that they shouldn't be parking. Why not just get out and do a little bit of walking? It would do so much, would do someone so much good to do that. The other thing is our regular eating patterns, and also the way we've learned to eat. Most people say, well, they eat well, and when we begin to break that down, people don't actually know what eating well is, and that's where, as I say, us as health coaches come in very strongly, because that's a very big part of what we do. Is we look at that to try and find what is happening and what is going wrong in terms of the way that people are eating, and maybe not eating in a way that's actually contributing to their health at the end of the day. So what are the health consequences of the way that we're eating, the very stressful lifestyles that we're living, the lack of sleep that we're getting, the lack of exercise that we have, and very often there are alcohol and other things that contribute to all of this. We end up with a situation where we have this thing called insulin resistance, which begins to develop, and it means our body then is not responding correctly or sufficiently to the insulin. So then sugar and the carbohydrates that we're taking in have a bigger impact. And one of the very big things we've got to understand about carbs and excess carbs or bad carbs in our system, that's what causes so much of our inflammation. That's what causes the basis of so much of the disease that we have. You can look at rheumatoid arthritis, you can look at the inflammation that we have in the different parts of our body that cause the damage, the joint pain, the issues that we have. The aging issues relate so much to all of that, and we've got to take cognizance of that and try and do something about it. Unwanted weight gain is another thing that comes along. That just produces also the deposition of fat in different places different places in our body, which are not healthy for us, and they cause a strain on our systems, and at the end of the day just bring on a lot of the disease that we have. And that, as I say, so much of it is around this whole thing of inflammation. Inflammation is a huge factor when it comes to disease and what ages us and causes most of our problems and most of our health problems. And also, of course, the cardiovascular complications which come along with this, the damaging of the vascular infrastructure, the damage to our hearts, the damage to the various organs in the body, diabetes, all the spikes and the dips in terms of the carbs. That's what causes so much of the damage, whether it's to the eyes, whether it's to the kidney, whether it's to different parts or different organs within our system. It's a huge thing, and it causes damage in various areas. And we the body is a whole system that works together, and we've got to look to keeping the entire body as well in as good as condition as we can. So let's look at trying to understand the blood sugar and weight connection. The glucose weight cycle. When blood sugar spikes repeatedly, your body produces extra insulin, and over time, what happens is the body then becomes resistant to insulin signals, and this is what then causes so much of the problem. We get the fat storage because we're not responding to the insulin as we should, as would normally be the case if it was working correctly and we were eating correctly. We had balanced our diets, we had balanced our sugar, using what we call a blood sugar balancing diet, which is very much what we promote. And we find that that's what actually helps you to get healthy again. It prevents all the excess fat being stored around your body. And you'll often see that doctors and people will take measurements around your waist. They're looking for the fat storage, especially around your midsection, because that's a very good indication of what's happening as far as your insulin is concerned and how well it is or isn't working. And that gives an indication of how far along the road you are towards this pre-diabetes or diabetic situation. You end up things, increased hunger and cravings. You get energy crashes, and you'll know, you'll see certain times of the day, if you're not eating well and you're not eating in a blood sugar balanced way, you will have these times when you just don't have energy, or you find that in the morning you've got to get up and have that cup of coffee. You've got to have something to get your energy back, and then mid-morning you find yourself suddenly you're very hungry, your energy crashes. After lunch, similar kind of things happen, and all those relate to what's happening with your carbohydrate metabolism and really what's going on with the insulin and this diabetic or pre-diabetic syndrome. And it's a progressive insulin resistance, which slowly it becomes more and more of a problem, to where one day you're not pre-diabetic, you get into a place where you are and you become diabetic. And then, of course, a lot of the damage has been done because we always look at the peaks and the troughs in terms of the insulin and the cortisol. Those are the things that in fact cause the damage. We need to try and get this as even as possible so that we prevent all of the damage being caused. And to break the cycle down, effective metabolic health requires addressing a number of different factors. We need to stabilize the blood sugar or blood glucose levels, and we do that by looking at our nutrition. There are other ways which we'll talk about when we start talking about one or two of the Neolite products, but stabilizing blood glucose levels are primary to keeping us healthy, because those levels being spiked and dipped cause so much of the damage to our body and to our various organs. And that goes obviously to supporting healthy insulin sensitivity. So insulin does what it should be doing and keeps the carb levels and the glucose levels as level as possible. And that reduces obviously your systemic inflammation, reduces that chronic inflammation, which is what causes your problem, your disease, your sore joints, and so much of the other damage to different parts of your body. And it also protects cellular energy at the end of the day. So the key insight here is that weight management isn't just about calories. It's about optimizing your metabolic processes to use glucose efficiently and maintain stable energy levels, and also maintain those stable carb levels to prevent the inflammation, and that is what causes the disease and the damage at the end of the day. So then we come on to this product, this amazing product that we have called Botanical Balance. And as I say, first step, and as an overriding thing, one needs to look at maintaining a good nutrition, a good diet, which is blood sugar balancing, so you prevent all of those spikes. But by using a product like Botanical Balance, and that's where it comes in, is the balance. The various components of Botanical Balance contribute to trying to help our body work better with the insulin, enabling insulin to work a little bit better. It provides a counter to a lot of the glucose spikes and troughs. And cinnamon extract is clinically proven to improve insulin sensitivity. and also the uptake into the muscles. So it's helping the body do what it should do, helping your body use sugar more effectively, so it's not deposited in the wrong areas and doesn't cause the problems and the inflammation which come about because you, as you say, you're moving towards the glucose intolerance, you're moving towards the metabolic syndrome. And it helps, in fact. That's why, I often say with people, one of the major good things or benefits about having cinnamon on pancakes is because of that. It helps actually control the sugar to a large degree. And I will even use in the morning with my and I literally every single day of my life I will have something like that. If I'm having oats, I will have cinnamon on that, or a combination of cinnamon and cloves and so on. But it's cinnamon which actually helps to control the glucose and prevent the spiking and so on. So it's a very good thing to know about cinnamon. You can use it in pure form, or as I say, we have cinnamon extract within the botanical balance. And then curcumin or turmeric, a very powerful anti-inflammatory compound that actually helps reduce oxidative stress and also supports this thing of preventing inflammation and the inflammatory responses in the body. So curcumin or turmeric is so easy to use. Again, something I use most days of my life as well. I'll put it on my salads. There's so many, you can have it in drinks. There's so many different ways that you can have it. But again, you've got it here in Botanical Balance as one of the main ingredients of Botanical Balance. So a valuable product to use to try and control the carb levels and keep a blood sugar balancing level in your body. And then chromium. Chromium has a number of different uses, but it's an essential mineral that actually enhances insulin action and also supports healthy glucose metabolism. So all of these things together are helping to control your glucose and the levels of the carbs and the glucose in your body. And it's really important for carbohydrate processing. Chromium is also an important thing when it comes to mental health, believe it or not. You can in actual fact use fairly good doses of chromium to deal with depression and other things as well, but that's an aside. So chromium is the thing that helps with this whole glucose metabolism thing. So the combination of Botanical Balance is incredibly good to help stabilize a lot of that. And you'll find with a lot of diabetics, if you do this, you make sure that your or people who are diagnosed as diabetic or pre-diabetic or have metabolic syndrome, using this together with a really good blood sugar balancing diet or lifestyle, you can in actual fact reduce your dependence on other things like medication and so on. And then the alpha lipoic acid is a universal antioxidant that protects cells from damage while supporting healthy nerve function as well, and also glucose metabolism. So in combination, all of these ingredients that are found in Botanical Balance make a huge contribution to improving the way that our body deals with the glucose and the carbs, preventing the inflammation and making for a far healthier person at the end of the day, where inflammation is reduced, disease will be reduced, and also it will help control weight at the end of the day. Because when you have all of those spikes, it's generally what happens is that you get hungry, so you eat more, and it's what causes a lot of the weight gain. So using a product like this will make a huge contribution, not only to making you more healthy in terms of reducing the metabolic syndrome, also in terms of keeping your weight in check as well. So Botanical Balance, in summary, it's an antioxidant, it's an anti-inflammatory, it reduces the impact of aging as an antioxidant. It improves blood and heart health as well, because it decreases so much of that inflammation which causes damage to most of your cardiovascular system. It also is involved in glucose balancing. So insulin works better and it does its job better when you are using something like Botanical Balance. It improves the way carbohydrates are utilized, so they're utilized in the correct way instead of actually ending up depositing fat in areas that you don't want it to be, which become unhealthy. So the overall health benefits of balanced glucose levels are exacerbated or improved using Botanical Balance. It's an amazing product. So if we then look at some of the other products just in the whole Neolife lineup, which will complement this whole dealing with the metabolic syndrome, and I've chosen these three that we'll look at the moment, is the Neolife Shake. It's a complete protein with the GR2 control technology, which also helps to keep your energy levels up. It also helps build or maintain muscle build-up because of the amino acids that are in there, and so of course it will help with healthy weight management, and it also provides some aspects of fat burning. Protein in itself will help a lot with that. Then when you look at the Salmon Oil Plus, it's a thing which contributes or just works in conjunction with the anti-inflammatory side of things. Salmon oil itself is a great anti-inflammatory. It reduces so much inflammation, and also for the cardiovascular and brain health, it's incredibly good. It also helps improve insulin sensitivity for better metabolic function. So in conjunction with the Botanical Balance, it's a great product to use in conjunction with that. And then I mentioned Amitone here because Amitone contains balanced amino acid and mineral formula that actually supports the development and the production of lean muscle maintenance, which is a really important thing to have. Having lean muscle is something that actually you find people that have done studies which actually show people who have good amounts of lean muscle actually survive a whole lot longer, and they are way healthier. Metabolic balance and obviously nighttime recovery is also a big part of the Amitone. It's something that it can do and contributes a lot to. And I think we've always got to remember that Neolife is rooted in nature. It's validated by science, so we can confidently promote these products to people that we come in contact with. There is a scientific backing to it, and we know that these things work. Some of the good things to look at is, with people that you speak to, is assess whether it's your own current health or their health. Don't just grab onto little things. Just try and find out a little bit more about the overall picture of what's going on before you start proposing things, so that it gives you a better idea of different things that you can use to help them with the different problems they have. And we obviously with Neolife will implement just natural solutions. We have amazing products, and the supplements that we have to propose are, as I've said in the beginning, food state products which actually work, make a difference, and will help people in the long run. It's very different from a lot of the synthetic stuff that is given, because and that's one of the huge things about Neolife products, is being food state. They have all of the extra things that we would have in normal food to ensure that the absorption is good and that the products actually work a whole lot better. And that's why people, when they say to you maybe things cost a little bit more, they actually cost less at the end of the day, because the products actually work. They're not something that you're going to take that really doesn't make a difference to your health at the end of it. It's something that's going into your body, go straight out again, not going to make any valuable contribution to you being better. It may help psychologically, but it's certainly not going to help physiologically. So just some take-home points as far as Botanical Balance is concerned. Metabolic syndrome is a lifestyle disease, and we've always got to remember, being a lifestyle disease, it's not a communicable thing, it's non-communicable. So it's something we can do something about. It is preventable, but it takes work on our part, whether we look at the whole thing of, okay, I'm going to eat better, I'm going to make sure I get the exercise, I'm going to do something about managing my stress, and I'm going to make sure that I have good sleep, I'm going to hydrate correctly. Do all of those things, and then of course, because of the busy lifestyles that we have and the situation where we find that our food does not have the nutrients that it used to have, supplements become an important part of that whole parcel to add into it, to help people to make sure that they get the nutrients that they need, they get the help that they need to support them in terms of improving their health. And the system focuses more on disease management, as we see in the medical profession, and I can say that as being somebody who is medically trained. we need to look at health management. We need to look at healing and prevention. So we actually get people well. We don't treat a symptom. We look at the root cause and we try and deal with it from that perspective so that people are better for a longer term and a longer time frame. We're looking to try and help make people well and stay well, not just cover or mask a symptom, which is pretty much what actually happens too often. And that doesn't help. We need to make sure that we help people get well. And it's within all of our grasps to do something positive about this whole thing. As I've said, we need to look at healthy nutrition. We need to look at doing exercise. And it's not a case of being unbelievably active all the time. We need to make sure we look at our sleep. We need to make sure that we do something about managing stress. Different things we can do. We can't get rid of stress, but we can learn and we can show you how to deal with it. And then, of course, the use of supplements, of which we have so many great ones within the Neolife stable. We need to take control to enjoy a healthy, happy lifestyle and help yourself and your customers to enjoy a healthier life and a healthier lifestyle. And that is possible. It's just something you've got to do. So a few more take-home points is just this thing I've put on before, and just to remember, because it's a long-term thing. It's not just a thing that you do every now and again. It must become a lifestyle. It must become the way that you do things. The heart attack that you have at 50 began at 20. The Alzheimer's that develops at 70 started at the age of 40 or even earlier. And today, with a lot of the statins, it starts earlier. The loss of independence at 80 began at 30, and it's preventable. The aging you want tomorrow begins with the choices you make today. And I think that's something really important that we need to take proper cognizance of, and maybe just try and help our people that we work with and that we share our products with to understand. It's a preventative thing. It's a longer term thing. We're not going to promise you any overnight successes, but you at least have light at the end of the tunnel, and you have a really positive light at the end of the tunnel. You can do something about it. So yeah, before we finish off today, I just wanted to ask you a question. Where to next? Just before we finish, I wanted to put some questions to you and maybe provide a little bit of a challenge. What is your 30-day plan going forward? Do you have a 60-day plan? Have you looked at what it is you want to try and achieve in the next 30 to 60 days? Specific things that you've got, that you've maybe put down on a sheet of paper or put onto a computer, of what it is that you want to be achieving in terms of your business and where you want to be as far as your Neolife journey is concerned. How's your email list going? Are you keeping the email list? Are you developing that? Are you looking at it on a daily and a weekly basis to keep building it of people that you can contact to begin to or continue to develop and build your networks? Who are you planning to talk to this week? Have you set yourself a task or a target to get to certain people this week, or to get to some people, or get to just increasing that network of yours that you're looking to build? How many people do you want to have recruited by this time next year? By the time you hit spring 2026, where do you want to be? Have you thought about that? Have you put it down on paper? Have you set yourself targets? Are you following up? Are you checking how you're getting along? Are you following up and keeping a record of where you're at and where it is you're going to? Always that really important thing that people say, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. And it's so true, because you don't have anywhere you're going. You're just sort of going. But where are you going? What is your next promotional event? Have you thought about something that you can do next? Have you thought about where you can make an impact, who you can talk to? Is there a social event that you can go to, or something that you do on a weekly basis? I think of the fact that I now have this park run that I run on a weekly basis, and it's providing for me an opportunity to speak to people. I can share with people. I'm interacting with, we have upwards of 200 people who come to the event every single week. So there are people that I can interact with. There are people I can talk to, and that's an opportunity that I'm going to use. Is there something that you can find in your environment, in your normal week or your day, that you can in actual fact use to share the Neolife product and share your journey, whether it is that for the business or for people who have health problems that you can help with, just think about that, where you can actually go to, what it is that you can actually do. And then the other thing is, based on what you've looked at and seen today in terms of this whole thing of metabolic disease, diabetes, and the products that we've spoken about, Botanical Balance, how can you leverage what you've learned today to get people interested in, and to find new clients and distributors? How can you actually use the information that you've got to promote the product and the combination of products? At the end of it, there's a whole group of them that you can contribute to in terms of an issue that people have. And it's a major issue these days, the problems with weight gain, with diabetes, pre-diabetes, and this whole metabolic syndrome. It's huge. It's a big problem that people need help with. You just have a look around you and see how many people you can see who there are out there who could do with your help. It's a huge, huge issue. So think about it, and always, as I say, try and think about the information that you learn, not just as something that's grown you, but something that you can use to help others with as well. So thank you very much for taking the time to join today, and I hope that you found it useful and that there's some ideas that you can use there, and also that you've learnt something that's valuable to you that can help you. Thanks very much, and thanks for joining us today. Cheers, it's Bobby.